Well, good morning, everybody. I'm afraid I won't be speaking in Spanish, so it will be English. I'm very honored to have had the invitation to come here to Donastia and talk a bit about the Swedish system, and particularly on the west coast of Sweden. Some years ago, 3 years ago, we, for the first time, met our Basque friends in the project SMOC, which was a European project in the Leonardo da Vinci program, where regions in Sweden, regions in Europe tried to exchange ideas in a very soft, open method. And so, therefore, I got to know these very, very nice organizers of this conference, and I'm very happy to be here. The Gotemburgo region is slightly similar to the Basque country in the way that we are very near the sea. We're on the west coast of Sweden, and we have basically the same type of weather. It's very misty, it's been raining a lot, which I heard that you also experienced yesterday. But there are, of course, very many differences as well. In Sweden, at the moment, everything concerning education and training is very decentralized, and there are 290 municipalities, and they are very much in control of how education and training is delivered. So it can be difficult for small municipalities to actually achieve some of the goals that this economic crisis, for example, has we've been faced by. So we thought, about 15 years ago, we decided when Sweden entered the common market that we would like to cooperate closer between the 13 member municipalities in the Gothenburg region. And this is absolutely necessary because Sweden is such a small country, only 9 million people. It's a vast country, many square kilometers, but very few people. It's probably too cold for anybody to live there. So you're lucky in that respect. But we have to focus on cooperation so that we can achieve many of the goals ahead of us now. The region where I come from, you can see, it consists of 920,000 inhabitants, and that's about 10% of the Swedish population, so it's not that many. But there are quite a few schools and different types of providers as well. 550 schools altogether, and out of those, 80 are upper secondary school level. And of course, we have a lot of adult education, which I will focus on. We are, as a regional organization, financed by membership fees, so there's no budget from the state or anything. It's just the municipality fees that we can live from, and also some courses, receipts from courses, conferences, investigatory work, and so on. And also now some EU funding, which is a new thing to Sweden. We haven't been very good at entering into some of the projects, but now it's increasing enormously. And I would like to say that Sweden faces many problems, of course, as many other countries in Europe. We have the demographic problem with a lot of old age pensioners and many more coming, and the younger generation is going down, especially at the age of upper secondary school level. So there will be a lack on the labor market very, very soon. At the same time, we're facing unemployment for young people, so there's a mismatch somehow. But everybody wants the young people. They just want to have them sort of finished and ready for the labor market. So we have to do a lot for the basic training, but also for adult education. So we feel that municipal collaboration gives regional strength. That's absolutely the only way we can go through the crisis. The west coast of Sweden, I don't know if you know about Gothenburg, but we have our industry is based on the car manufacturing. We have the big plants, Volvo. We also have a very small brand called Saab, which is almost bankrupt at the moment, so there are big problems. Volvo is actually picking up, and probably due to some of the things that we've been doing concerning adult education. It's very unusual that we have an old Swedish car brand now owned by the Chinese, by Geely. But we have to adjust, and we have to continue working with adult education to also be interesting to the Chinese so that they actually stay in Sweden. So it's a big challenge. And not only Volvo, but many of the other suppliers have been very badly hit by the recession and the economic crisis. So I will also focus on something which is called Technique College, which is really a type of network between the social partners in the technical side and also all the providers of all types of education, from upper secondary level to adult education and higher vocational education and training. It's been a success story. A lot of regions in Sweden have actually focused on this technical campus where you can provide all types of training for all age groups. And I will use that example when I talk about the Swedish system, which I have been asked to do. Of course, we are trying to also meet the European dimension in the same way as you are, the new agenda for new skills for jobs, not just for new jobs, but for jobs, those jobs that exist. For example, in the Volvo plant, we have to upskill people the whole time. And there has to be a very easy access to training and the lifelong learning and career guidance for all employees as well. And how do you reach employees? And I will give some examples further on. And of course, the former speaker also mentioned entrepreneurship, and that is very important. So recently, during the last 2 years, we have trained 2,000 teachers and counselors in entrepreneurship to try and introduce this in all schools at all levels, because we also have to have the new companies. The adult education in Sweden, if we look back and also look into the future in a long-term perspective, is based on this strategy. This is the Swedish strategy that all adults should be given the possibility to gain more knowledge and develop their skills and knowledge with the aim of enhancing personal development, democracy, equality, economic growth, employment, and a sustainable, equal society. It's very easy to focus on the economic growth at the moment because we've been hit by the crisis, but we must remember that on the long term and in the future, we also have to base our values on this strategy. The Swedish school system at the moment looks like this. You can see the blue parts, which is the basic system, and then we will focus more on the, let's see if this works now. So, well, the red part of this, where we have the municipal adult education, which is the main part of the formal education. I saw some European indicators which said that about 6% of the European people take part in adult education. In Sweden, it's 12.3%. So it's the double amount taking part in adult education, formal adult education. If we then look at the people who are employed or unemployed, the rate of people who are unemployed is the same in Europe, 6.3%, but in Sweden it's 20%. So a lot of unemployed people take part in formal adult education, but also, of course, in non-formal, which I will come into as well. So there's an old tradition of actually taking part in adult education, even though that has to increase the whole time. The formal education, what has happened recently? Well, recently, you might say that 1997 to 2002 was not recently, but then we had also a very large unemployment number in Sweden. So our former ministry for the Social Democratic Party said that it's more important that people train than receive benefits through unemployment funding. And over 100,000 extra places were opened up. So these were closing in 2002, and what happened was that a lot of those people actually continued to higher education in universities and so on, which was quite good, because we also needed people who were trained in the academic world. For example, in the healthcare sector, doctors, nurses, many people who used to be healthcare assistants then trained to become nurses, which was good. So that is also part of our history. There will now be a new reform in 2012 concerning formal adult education, which is then based on the same system as the upper secondary level. The upper secondary level, the goals and aims and the curricula is decided by the state, but it's administered by the municipalities. So there's a joint partnership. But there are very clear national goals, and there are at the moment 18 programs or pathways that you can enter, and then there are 60 different ways that you can choose, but only 60. Then, of course, you can have very local pathways, like in the mining industry up north, then you have a very specialized pathway which is decided on a national level. Anybody can then go to this type of education and training. Recently, in 2009, when the crisis was enormous, especially on the West Coast, the government said that they wanted to put some extra money into the system, because formal adult education is basically paid by municipal tax. So the municipal taxes then go to the upper secondary level. There is some state funding for Swedish for immigrant and also for the lower level, secondary level. But the state said, we must do something about this need of people trained in vet. So something called the Vet Boost for Adults was introduced, and that's still running, and it's very, very interesting, because this is very close to the unemployed people, to people who are employed but are actually at the risk of losing their job. So many people had to be trained so quickly, so we thought, what do we do? How can we manage to actually use this money? It was a problem. How can we help to assist this labor force entry, especially for young students? Many finished maybe academic pathways, and then they found that they didn't have a job. So a lot of these people taking part in the Vet Boost are actually between 20 and 25 years old. But how could we provide for this training? Some of them actually take this Vet Boost also to continue to higher vocational education, but the basic aim is to enter the labor market.